Matt, start with just an overview. What are you trying to accomplish this spring? Obviously, you've got a lot of guys back in the first group.
The big thing is always trying to create more camaraderie, more chemistry, constantly working on that and moving some guys around. I got Nestor's playing a lot of center. He's playing a lot of right tackle. I've had Yates playing center, Yates playing right guard, Hubbard playing some right guard and playing some right tackle, moving them around. The left side has been pretty solid with Wyatt and Tomas. So really just trying to create guys that can play different spots. Because you never know as far as the season goes, you always want to be able to get the best 5 players out there. And you can't do that if you just pigeonhole them into one place. And you always want to have multiple good players that can play center. So that's really what I'm working on up front right now with the first group.
Is that the hardest thing, trying to teach those guys center? Obviously, Zach knows it, but Doug and Brandon haven't played it a lot.
Yeah, and I tell you, they've both done a really nice job. And it's really just the snapping and it's the control, having the control. But once they do it, like once Doug and Yates both started doing it, they really enjoyed having control, having the cadence, making the calls. And it really takes their football IQ and takes it to another level. I mean, it'll help both of them as far as playing on the next level if they can play center and compete for several spots.
What is this group block best right now?
I'd say inside zone, outside zone's getting better. That's something we've constantly been working on for a couple of years. We've been pretty good inside zone team as far as our best play. But we are, our gap scheme, that's really our 3 main schemes that we're working. But I'd say inside zone is what they're most comfortable with movements and all that kind of stuff.
Has the 2 quarterbacks' ability to run really helped your guys?
Oh, yeah. Especially in the pass game. I mean, just because you don't have a guy that's sitting right there on a mark. I mean, you got to, as a defensive player, you got to stay in your rush lanes. All of a sudden, you run a twist and you go out an extra gap, and those guys will make you pay. And that's really nice to have because it takes pressure off of us and makes them stay more gap sound and makes them rush their lanes more than just, what we've had in the past.
And when you run zone and your quarterback can pull it and run, that's
adds a whole nother. You just got to be, you got to be careful. It's not something, we're not Army or Navy. We're not going to do it. But, you got to pick and choose when you want to do it and make the defense defend it so they can't cut angles on you quite as sharp. In the past we've had that backside guy on short yardage really skimming down in there because he knew that our quarterback, if he did pull it, he may get 4 or 5 yards at best. But now we can really make people pay when they want to gamble on that and pull the ball and get big plays.
Say you're not Army or Navy. Could you be if with the running backs, the quarterbacks, and the line you have?
Oh yeah, we could be. Take a lot of work. And recruiting would probably hurt our recruiting a little bit. If we're gonna sit there and bang on a quarterback like that all the time, and I feel good about where we are with the quarterbacks, the way they move, and they're just getting better and better at decision making.
On the point of knowing regardless of who wins, you're gonna have a more mobile quarterback. You're talking about how it's easier in a way. What are maybe some complexities that have made potentially preparing for this season more difficult? Like, are there pieces of even veteran members of the offensive line that they had that now they need to hone in on more because you know you're going to have a mobile quarterback?
Really going through this spring, I think the number one hardest thing as a coaching staff is going to be honing down what we're going to do. Because when you put those 2 guys back there, you get so many good ideas. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, we can do this. We got to hone down what we're going to do. And that's kind of what we're doing, seeing what we like. But from an O-line standpoint, really what those guys do for us sometimes is they erase our mistakes. Like all of a sudden you do drop your head. You do get beat on the edge. And, they do a good job of those guys stepping up or helping us out. And because, when you go live tackle on those guys, it's hard to do. It's hard to get your hands on them.
Yeah, you mentioned Army and Navy. Even if your quarterback's only running 4 or 5 times, and one of them could be potentially a touchdown, that in itself has value, right?
Yeah, no doubt. Red zone, third downs. That's what you're like, hey, if that's kind of the way you think is like, hey, if we're going to do this, you don't want to just go out there all the time on 1st and 10 and you may get 7 yards, but, you got to be smart about how you run them just because defensive players in this league are so big and so physical. You don't want them taking free shots on your quarterback when he's running the ball.
Negatives of not having Zach out as much as normal. His limitations in practice?
Not really positives. It's got other guys ready for the moment. It's Doug Nestor's done a phenomenal job from a leadership standpoint. Today we had a really slow start, not very good in the beginning. We had a really good ending, and I put it on those guys during one of our special teams periods. Like, hey, y'all, I mean, we're the veteran group. We got to take charge. And Doug got them together, and him and Yates and Hubbard, they got together, and we picked it up, and we finished really strong.
With the cross training, aside from just making more depth, does it help the guys understand like offensive line play better?
Yes, great point. Football IQ goes through the roof. Football IQ, we've really worked on that in the off season as far as our film watching, guys coming in and doing extra film watching on their own, and just, when you're going to play one more, especially when you got to move to center, because now you got to know what everybody does. Now you got to know where the mic starts, you got to know what the front side's doing, what the back side's doing, and it really takes your football IQ, and that's what Doug and Yates both really liked about it. It's like, hey, you're forcing me to learn more football, which is going to help me down the road.
What are some of the differences? Because they're more mobile and they're similar, but Nico and Garrett aren't exactly identical players.
One's right-handed, one's left-handed.
Is that the only major difference? Obviously, I know that that's a difference.
No, I mean they've got different run styles. They got different, the way they run the ball. We're trying to get them to be, the thing that quarterbacks that can run is good, but you got to teach them how to set up blocks when you got a lineman in front of you or a blocker in front of you. Sometimes scramble guys don't do that. So, but they're both getting way better at being able to set up blocks and do stuff like that. But they are very similar when they get out in space. They both have a really quick trigger, really, really quick with getting the ball out. But they are very similar back there. But I mean, left-handed, right-handed, I was kidding with you about that. It's not really, everybody makes a big deal about the blind side, but that's not really. We feel pretty good. We feel really good about both our tackles.
Progression of Remack, how's he coming along?
Really having a really good spring. He does a phenomenal job in the weight room. The kid's 6'6", 300, and right at 15 to 20 pounds, and he's under 20% body fat. So he is really gifted physically, and he's done such a phenomenal job over the past year and a half of becoming a good player, good body position. Early on, he wanted to hit everything with his head, and, it really works in high school because a lot of those guys just stand there and let you hit them, right? Well, now you can't do that. You can't drop your eyes. And he's done a great job of working on those things and getting better and better and better. So I feel really good about where he is. Super physical inside player, strong, runs really, really well. And he's got to keep getting better. But I feel really good about where his progression's going.
Hubbard, we talked to him, I think, last week. You've gotten past the point where you've gotten his body where it needs to be. Where does he got to go now from here?
He has got to. Well, for me, he's got to play in better body position. He gets leaning a little bit. He's kind of heavy up top. When he gets over his toes, he can't move as well. And a lot of it is strength-based with him. He's not the strongest guy out there, so he does have to lean a little bit when he plays. And that we just got to find that, hey, we got to continue working on his lower body strength and really straining. And, every lineman has a deficiency, right? What you want to try to teach him is how do you play to decrease your deficiency, whether it's strength or whether it's speed or he's got to learn how to minimize that deficiency as much as he can, because it's not like he's going to start squatting 700 pounds in the next 4 months. You know what I mean? So he's got to learn how to play, understanding that's his deficiency, and he starts getting bulled. He's got to be really quick to go to his bull hop or whatever it is to stop the bull rush. So it's really teaching each one of those guys, whether you're a step slow or whether your athletic ability isn't quite as good, you got to teach them how to minimize that as much as you can.
He seems to be a really intelligent guy.
Oh, yeah, he's a really smart guy. He's an awesome kid. He'll run through a wall. He works his butt off. You won't find anybody that works any harder than he does.
With guys like Tomas, do you know? I mean, obviously he didn't start last year at the beginning. Do you know guys if he needed to, he could start and then obviously.
Yeah, you talking about early in the season last year?
Yeah, I mean, are there young guys that?
Yes.
You would be able to count on?
Yes, there's other young guys like Malone right now. Malone played the whole scrimmage as the starting right tackle. Doug was down for a day, and he did a great job. He's got his weight up where he's consistently 300 pounds. He played 3/4 of practice today at left tackle, starting left tackle. Did a phenomenal job. He's a really smart player. He's one of those guys that's right there on the cusp where if we want to play 6-0 lineman, he's going to go in. If we need a fifth guy, one of the tackles, he's going to go in. And that's, those guys going in, first of all, they know what they're doing. They communicate well, play with good pad level, and that you look for those things that they can be consistent players. But, yeah, like with Tomas last year, I knew it wasn't going to be a problem if he went in the game. I mean, it's like everybody else. Everybody has their kind of learning curve, but I felt really good about that last year.
Who's the next Tomas? Who do you got?
Sully Weedman.
Okay.
Sully, he's very similar to where Tomas was. Got a little bit of forward body lean. He's big and strong. I mean, he's 315, 320 pounds, but just hadn't gotten used to that college level speed. He wants to reach and grab people, and you just can't do it. As soon as you reach, those guys are going to go around you, and he's just got to continue to work getting used to the speed of the game.
Did you see that, or are you a little surprised by what he's given you?
Yeah, I'm really surprised at how big of a step he's made since his true freshman year. You know, and the big thing with what we do with our developmental stuff is these kids, these true freshmen, these redshirt guys, they get a ton of reps during the season because we keep them after and we scrimmage and we video it, and I make time to sit down and watch it with them so they learn, and it really pays off. Those 20 reps 2 times a week all season long, I mean, it's huge. He's made a big step from where he was to where he is now. Johnny Williams just got here. I mean, he's had to step up and be the second team left tackle in the whole scrimmage. So he was second team left tackle today and has really made huge strides for a kid from Macon, Georgia, who didn't throw the ball a whole lot. Really good pass pro and has done a really nice job. I've been really pleased at where he's at.
What do you think your other young linemen? You mentioned a couple there, but Mo,
Mo has got as much talent as anybody out there. He has just got to figure out how to put it all together. He doubts himself a little bit. So like you can tell when a kid's thinking, because one play he's really fast and the next play he's kind of slow. Well, he's doubting himself. He's not real sure what he's doing. So I got to get him beyond that doubt. Like he knows what to do. Like there's a difference between being able to draw it on the board or watch film and tell you, then getting out there and you're all hot and sweaty and things are moving really fast. And you got to know it really well to go do that stuff. And I just hadn't got him to that point yet. We're going to continue giving him reps. Bryce Biggs has been a huge surprise this spring. He's kind of come into his body. He's one of those kids that played quarterback, tight end. I didn't play O-line in high school until like his junior or senior year. So he's really starting to come along. He's had a really good spring. I'm excited about him. I've had Charlie at center. Charlie's done a great job, really good football knowledge. Got to get stronger, but really good. He could be a really good center as far as making calls, seeing second. He's just got that kind of it factor. He understands formations. He understands leverage. He understands where people line up on the football field. He's doing a really good job. And Landon Livingston's had a really good day today. I kind of got him back in the fold. He was 265 pounds. He's 290 now. So really starting to come along. So I'm excited about this group, the group of young guys. And I'm really excited about the leadership from the group of the older guys that are doing a really good job.
Landon's playing where?
Right guard center.
Okay.
Playing both, right guard center. So trying to dual train him. Charlie's right tackle center. So trying to dual train him too.
So with all 5 starting liners back, all 4 running backs back, and the 2 quarterbacks that have been here, is there less you have to teach this spring, or are you able to just kind of go out and practice, and you're not having to try to acclimate guys to the system and what they need to do?
Well, you're right about like the teaching of the scheme and like who's got who. The teaching's always in the little things, the second step, the hand leverage, the pad leverage, the eyes, those little things, because you can always take, they know what to do, that's good, but how do you react to different movements? And that's where you start taking those young guys, you don't preach it as much because they're still trying to figure out what to do. Those older guys, you got to take it to another step. I know I got him, but what about when he does this? How long is it going to take me to realize it and do this? So reactions is what the older guys more always working on, hey, how to react to movements, because defense is always trying to bring an old lineman over here and then bring another guy over here. And you got to teach them how to react and to do it in a way where they have a base and pad level. If you react standing straight up with your feet together, it doesn't help. So there's still a lot of teaching in those little things. It is such a hard position to master. Very few have. And there's just always something to learn as an O-lineman. There's always something to get better at.
Matt, you said Charlie's right tackle center?
Yep, right tackle center with Charlie. Landon's right guard center.
this might just be sports writer in me, but like those are two very different positions. You see guard center frequently, but tackle
Yeah.
center for a young guy in particular, there must be something you like about.
Well, he played right tackle all fall, so he's pretty easy. It's as much once you learn center, learning tackle is easy. Playing it's a little harder. Does that make sense? The further you get away from the ball, the less knowledge you have to have, but the more athleticism you got to have. Does that make sense? And like he's got the athleticism and he's got the smarts. So I'm trying to dual train him and see where he's gonna. I know I got to have a plan for center going down the road, right? Because I'm not going to be blessed with a guy I got forever. I wish I was. If I get him to stay for a couple more years, that'd be awesome.
So Doug and Jaquay flipping in positions at times. So positives and negatives maybe. What have you seen out of those guys of keeping Doug maybe at tackle rather than guard?
Yeah. So Doug, he got the first 3 days at tackle, and then he got the next 3 days at center. Actually, got two because he got banged up and missed one. So he's back at center today. He'll be back at tackle tomorrow, and really, it's good for him. Like I said, it's really good for him to understand because there's a lot of difference between a pass set at center and a pass set at tackle. And he's got to get that in his head and understand that because you don't get much depth at center, but if you go to tackle, don't get much depth. That guy's going around you, and that's been the hardest thing for both of them is playing inside and outside. Is you got to do it enough where you can flip that switch and say, okay, I'm back on the edge. Because if you're on the edge, you can turn your shoulders a little bit, right? Because the quarterback's further. You turn your shoulders at center, I mean, he's right there at the quarterback. So those are the things, moving position to position. You got to be able to flip the switch, and that's what a lot of NFL guys look for. They want people that can play like Colton McKivitz. He can play all 5 positions. He can snap now. So just signed a second contract. There's a correlation there.
Okay, anything else for Coach? All right, thank you, sir.
Appreciate you guys.